Hi guys, and welcome to episode 4 of the Zelda Versus series. Matchup today is between A Link Between Worlds and the Minish Cap. The first category we have is creativity. While both games have a lot of creativity, A Link Between Worlds is heavily based off of A Link to the Past, while Minish Cap is sort of its own thing, which makes it a little more creative. So, the Minish Cap wins this round. The next category we have is combat. While both games have great combat, the Minish Cap is sort of set in a 2D perspective, while A Link Between Worlds has more 3D environment, which adds more depth to the combat. This gives A Link Between Worlds a high edge compared to the Minish Cap, so it wins in this category. The next category is exploration. The two games here are almost completely tied in terms of exploration, except for the fact that A Link Between Worlds has the Dark World, which almost doubles the size of the map, which gives it an advantage in this category, and thus taking the win. The next category we have is items. While the Minish Cap has a lot more unique items, while the Link Between Worlds are based completely almost off of A Link to the Past's items, A Link Between Worlds has a new item system called the rental system, where you can rent items instead of buying them. This unique perk gives A Link Between Worlds an edge over the Minish Cap in the item category. The next category that will be versus in is enemies. The Minish Cap has some of the most unique and diverse enemies in the whole entire Zelda series. While A Link Between Worlds has great enemies as well, the Minish Caps has so unique ones, and A Link Between Worlds is very much based off of A Link to the Past's enemies, which gives the Minish Cap a win in this category. The next category we have is dungeons. The two games that are versusing today are some of the best 2D dungeon games. They both have incredible dungeons, with some of the best dungeon design in the whole entire series. However, the Minish Cap has a little more unique puzzle solving, even though A Link Between Worlds has a 3D aspect to it. The Minish Cap kind of has that too, but the puzzles are more unique and interesting. The next category that will be versusing in is characters. Well, I want to say that the Minish Cap has a chance in this one, with characters like Vati and Eslo. A Link Between Worlds probably has one of the best, if not the best, characters in the whole entire series, with characters like Yuga, Ravio, Link, Hilda, Zelda, and a lot more that have great emotional and character arcs throughout the story. And speaking of the story, the next category that we'll be having a versus in is story. The Minish Cap has a really great story, with Vati being a relatively new antagonist, and some of the story arcs. But A Link Between Worlds has an amazing story, so it gets the point in this category. The next category that we're going to be ranking these games in is emotion. Both of these games have great emotion, and you would think that since A Link Between Worlds has good characters and good story, that it would be more emotional. And you would be right, because it is a little more emotional. So, especially the ending and the cutscenes. But that's not to say that the Minish Cap doesn't have good emotion either. The next category we have is progression. Once again, this is a category where both games have a really good advantage. Except in this category, the Minish Cap actually has excellent progression, maybe even the best in the series. As it starts out a little easy, and at the end it turns really hard. So it has great progression, and it wins this category. The next category we have is side content. This category, the Minish Cap, has a severe advantage because of the kinstone pieces. And also the Minish Cap has a lot of interesting hidden chests and treasures to get. While A Link Between Worlds has great side content too, it's not nearly as much as the Minish Cap, which gives the Minish Cap another point in this category. The next category these two games will be fighting in is music. While you could definitely say that A Link Between Worlds music sounds better than the Minish Cap's, almost all of the music from that game is taken directly or is a reorchestration of A Link to the Past music, while the Minish Cap has almost all completely original music, which gets it the advantage in this category, as it has more creative music. The next category we have is bosses. In this category, A Link Between Worlds has a great advantage due to it having some of the best bosses in the entire series. And while the Minish Cap does have very excellent boss fights, A Link Between Worlds is just unmatched in its great bosses, which gets it the win in this category. The next category is art style. While both of these games have great art styles, A Link Between Worlds art style, although it looks cool and creative, it's kind of bland. And while this might be the case, the Minish Cap does have an art style, but it's very reminiscent to the Wind Wakers and Four Swords. Even despite this, however, the Minish Cap wins in this category. The next category that will be ranking these two games in is world. The Minish Cap has a great world, filled to the brim with cool characters, music, and hidden things. However, A Link Between Worlds has one of the best worlds in the whole entire series, with even more characters and references to A Link to the Past, which I think A Link Between Worlds wins in this category. The next category, and also the second to last category, is the difficulty. This is sort of how hard it is at the climax and hardest point of the game. A Link Between Worlds is generally not a very hard game, while the Minish Cap isn't necessarily hard either. But the end of the Minish Cap gets really hard, with really hard puzzles and boss fights, which gives it the win in this category. It's a tie, in whichever game wins the next category will win the whole entire game. And the next category is replay value. The replay value for the Minish Cap is really high because of its great characters, great dungeons, and great world. However, A Link Between Worlds has an amazing replay value, all of its references and things to find in nooks and crannies, and secret side quests and items, and just the storyline in general is great, which gives it the win in this category, and the overall win for the whole entire round. Thanks for watching this video. I'll have a link to the bracket for the Zelda Versus in the description. Also, I want to thank you guys because I just reached 50 subscribers. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.